Hello and welcome to the Math Magic Show. In this one, let's take a look at solving this equation. It says 12w squared plus 19w plus 4 equals 0. So I'm going to factor the left side using the AC method of factoring with grouping, and then we'll take it from there. So remember, to solve an equation like this simply means to find the values of w that make the left-hand side equal to 0. So let's go through that process. So first, what I'm going to do is the following. I'm just going to rewrite the equation just one time. So I have 12w squared plus 19w plus 4. The 12 that you see is the A, and the 4 that you see at the end is the C. Now I want to know that because when I factor the left side, I'm going to use the AC methods. So take a look. I'm going to have the value of A multiplying C. So when I do that, that's 48, because it's 12 times 4, which is 48. So in other words, that there is A times C. Now to make the factoring work on the left side, what I'm going to do next is the following. I'm going to say that it looks like this. The B is the 19. So I'm going to look for two numbers that multiply together to 48, and the same two numbers have to add up to 19. So one more time, they have to multiply to 48 and add up to 19, because then those numbers are used to rewrite the middle term. So let's go through the process here. First, let's pretend that you don't know where to begin, so you experiment a little bit. So in other words, you take your 48, and you look at the factors of 48, the things you can divide into it, in other words, or the things that you multiply together. So let's take a look. You try 6 times 8. Well, 6 times 8 is 48. But the problem is 6 plus 8 is not 19. So 6 and 8 are no good. Then you look for another pair. That's not good. Okay, so maybe you then come up with these two. Say 16 and 3. Well, 16 times 3 is 48. That's good. 16 plus 3 is 19. That's also good. That tells you that the 19w should be rewritten using 16 and 3. In other words, the reason is the following, that 16 times 3 is equal to 48, which is the value of A times C from step 1. And also 16 plus 3 is 19, which is the coefficient, the B. The next step here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite the middle term. Take a look. I'm going to have 12w squared, and I have to be careful about how I choose to rewrite the middle term. Remember that we are taking 19w, which is B, and we are rewriting that. And I'm going to rewrite that using the 16 and the 3. So I have to decide whether the 3 should go with the 12 or the 16. Let's think about this for 1 second. How do we place these middle terms? So I'm going to arrange them this way. I'm going to put 3w, and it's really 3w times 1. You really got to see that 1, because sometimes when we factor and people don't see it and it all breaks apart. So it's 12w squared plus 3w times 1 plus 16w plus 4 times 1. So I've taken 19w and I've rewritten it as 3w plus 16w. I'm putting it this way for the following reason. If I put the 3 where the 16 is, that would give me 3w plus 4. That doesn't have any common factors, so it's no good. That's why it's got to be written this way. And now I factor basically with grouping. So when I look at 12w squared and 3w, I observe that those two terms have 3w as a common factor. So let's take a look. I'm going to have the following. I'll have 3w goes outside the parentheses, and what's left on the inside, if you want to find it quickly, will look like this. 3 times 4 would give you the 12, so that means over here you put a 4. W times w would give you w squared, so that means over here you put w. That's the way of thinking about it, okay? Keep in mind, of course, this is a way of doing it. It's not the only way of doing it. Another thing that is very important is that the 3w has been factored outside the parentheses, which means only the plus 1 stays. That's why I made that 1 very explicit. So in other words, it ends up being plus 1. For the 16w plus 4, again, I want it to be very clear. So I put there not just 4, but 4 times 1. Because now when I look to 16w and 4, I see there's a common factor of 4 that can be placed outside the parentheses. So when I do that, it will look like this. I'm going to put plus 4. And be very careful at step number 7, because here people sometimes try to write some kind of multiplication. But no. Positive 4 is what's coming out from the two terms over here at step 6. So you place that outside with its sign, just the way you see it at step 7. Okay? And then here I will have the following. I'm going to have 4w left in that position. And the reason is that 4 times 4 would give back the original 16. For the next piece, after over here, when I pull the 4 out, you see there's a plus 1 left over. So for that reason, it's going to give me plus 1. And at step 7, you got to stop and be very careful. Make sure that you've got 3w over here and 4. And make sure that the quantities within parentheses are the same. In other words, they both are, for example, 4w plus 1, or whatever it happens to be in your particular case, okay? So that's that step. At the next step, I'm going to take the 3w and I'm going to put it together with the 4. So it's going to look like this. It's going to be 3w together with the 4. So it's this 3w together with that 4, with the plus 4. That's why the sign at step 7 in the middle is really important. Here it happens to be plus 4, but it could be a negative sign also, you see? Okay, then we wrap that inside parentheses. And then the 4w plus 1 that's placed next to the 3w plus 4, like that. So I have now a product of two binomial quantities, 3w plus 4 and also 4w plus 1. And remember that while this is just the fairly sophisticated factorization step, up here I have 12w squared plus 19w plus 4 equals 0. So now I've taken the left side and I've factored it. I need to keep this thing set equal to 0. So I'm going to put here equals 0, like that. And then just take each quantity within parentheses. 3w plus 4, set that equal to 0. And then 4w plus 1, set that equal to 0 individually. So when I do that, I'll have the following. Step 9. It's going to give me 3w plus 4 equals 0. Okay, and then sometimes people draw like a vertical line to indicate that they're solving two separate equations. Okay, and then the other equation would be 4w plus 1 equals 0, just the way you see it. So from step 8, take each quantity, each binomial, set it equal to 0. That will give you now two separate values of w. So let's take a look. It's going to look like this. It's going to be 3w equals negative 4. So at step 10, I took the 4 from 9 and I just moved it to the right side with subtraction. If you like, I subtracted 4. And I divide everything by 3. So when I do that at step 11, I'm going to have w equals negative 4 thirds. Divide when you go from 10 to 11 by 3 on both sides. So this value, negative 4 thirds, is one of the answers. It's a particular value of w. Let's repeat this for the other side at step 10. I have 4w plus 1 equals 0. So I'm going to have here 4w equals negative 1. I move the 1 to the right side with subtraction. Then at step 10, I divide through by 4. So it's going to tell me that w equals negative 1/4. And it's very important here to remember that w equals negative 1/4 is one particular value of w. W equals negative 1/4 is another particular value of w. And if you were to write the solutions down, you would make a list of two separate values. These are not points. It's not negative 4 thirds, comma, negative 1/4. It's not a point. Okay, just two separate values of w. So you would list the solutions with a comma between them, no parentheses. But this is all of the work. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe. I hope it's been helpful. I'll see you in another video.